Well, that was quick. The ceasefire was short-lived. Fighting has now begun heating up in the last few days, and now Israel is claiming that Hamas fired rockets from humanitarian zones. All that follows after Israel confirms that 5 Hamas military leaders have been killed. Where does Israel and the U.S. go from here? Joining me now to break it all down is foreign policy expert and editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari. Also here, Trump campaign foreign policy advisor and author of The Choice, Waleed Phares. Waleed, may I start with you? Ceasefire ends. It heats up. We know the IDF and also Hamas are talking about 15,000 Palestinians are dead. So where does it go from here? Does it continue? Are there any more hostages that are going to be released? What are your thoughts?
Well, look, as someone who actually lived over 15 years or about 15 years of war between Israel and the PLO and the other factions and the Syrians in Lebanon, I can claim I have a lot of experience and know more or less where this is going. Between the PLO and the Israelis in Lebanon during that war, it was not 3 months, it was many, many years, 103 ceasefires were signed. So now we are at the beginning of a process between the Israelis and Hamas. There will be other ceasefires. Hamas wants one to actually survive this war, and the Israelis are trying to, as much as they can, finish the war before other faction like Hezbollah or the Iran regime would enter the dance. What the United States has to do at this point in time, because Israel is doing its own campaign, is basically to make sure that neither the Houthis in the south or Hezbollah in the north or the Iran regime in the east and in Iraq meddle in the situation. We need to respond to the bigger threat so that the Israelis can handle themselves with Hamas.
Lisa, Waleed makes a great point. And the way you do that is to go after Iran. That's the only way you're going to get them to stand down, the Houthis and even the Hezbollah from Lebanon and maybe even Hamas. Is it time? He won't do it, but is it time for the United States to preemptively attack Iran?
Not preemptively attack Iran, but give them the message, because attacking Iran, meaning Iran, the country of Iran, is not where the regime wants or has it lined up to be hit. They have spread their proxies so that it will never hit their soil, and I actually agree with that, because the Iranian people, we would lose them as an ally against the regime. And that's the number one message that this Biden administration has missed, to really ally with the Iranian people who have had a revolution for the last year. But to send the message to Iran and its regional aspirations to say, we're not going to allow the Houthis in Yemen. We're going to respond to insurgencies within Iraq and Syria. We're going to eradicate Hezbollah in Lebanon. We're going after Hamas in Gaza. And that has never been the overarching, clear-cut message from the White House. On the one hand, they have supported Israel in its endeavors, but on the other hand, they keep putting red tape everywhere and trying as much as possible to distance the Biden administration from this main narrative that Iran's regime is pulling the puppet strings on all of this.
So what do you say, Waleed? And maybe weigh in. The other day we saw the leaders of Harvard and UPenn and another couple schools basically waffling on. They couldn't say it's against their policy to say from the river to the sea, meaning a genocide of Israelis. They couldn't push back on that. They've since tried to explain what they meant in letters after their testimony to Congress. But is this not sending a signal to the rest of the world that there's no resolve on the American people to fight this?
Absolutely. When our intelligentsia, our academia, and these were leaders of the top institutions, so-called in America, cannot make a statement about Hamas being a terrorist or about what Iran and its militias are doing in the region, ignoring the Iran revolution, ignoring the women of Iran, ignoring the Cedars revolution in Lebanon. I mean, imagine Harvard, UCLA, Georgetown have been practically on the side of the jihadists and on the side of the Iran regime. They may say, no, that's not the way of reading it. I do read it like that because for 25 years, I have been warning the United States Congress and our public that outside hostile forces have been influencing our campuses. There are a lot of studies about it. And now we see the results. Finally, when Congress finally move on the issue and question these leaders of our academia, they realize that there are no answers. And that should be questioned by itself.
I'll give you another one, Lisa. And again, this is my opinion. Why not level the Iranian oil infrastructure? Just level it. It's sand. We can turn it into glass with a bunch of heat. We're not going to kill a lot of people doing that. But as always, Lisa, follow the money. That's really the way you elicit change with some of these people, and wiping out their oil infrastructure would hurt them and maybe change their minds.
We had wiped out their oil business, not physically, but monetarily. The Trump administration had put on serious, targeted, focused sanctions that prevented Iran's regime from bringing in a lot of oil revenue. And guess what? Within the first months of the Biden administration, they removed those vital sanctions. So people talk about the $6 billion that was given on top of that prisoner exchange. Don't worry about that $6 billion. Worry about the sanctions that were taken off of Iran's regime that allowed them to rake in $60 to $90 billion in oil revenue on their own by trading with partners like China. That's where we level their oil infrastructure. And guess what? We gave it right back to them. So the Biden administration has a lot of rethinking to do regarding its Iran policy if it wants to eradicate all of this terror money that's coming out of Iran's regime and going into the pockets of many, many insurgencies and proxies around the region.
Got to leave it right there. Lisa Daftari, Waleed Faris, always good discussion on Israel.